Hi everyone, we're back again with another demo, this time with the 1170 EnveJet by Postmark. It's our envelope printer. So this is what we're going to be looking at here today. What you see is everything that you get with this particular unit, starting with the feeder here on this end. It comes with both the manual feed table and then also this automatic feeder as well. We'll get into the details a little bit here and later in the demo around that. And then you've got our conveyor with our print head mounted directly above it. And then of course our conveyor here at the end to collect everything. This unit also includes the computer and software you need to run the system. And it also includes this heavy-duty 6-foot table. So you get everything that you need on day one to start printing immediately, whatever your needs. So as I said, this is our envelope printer. This is geared and specifically designed for envelopes. Why don't we go ahead and look a little bit into the feeder, and I can get into some of the details here. So right now we've got number 10s loaded into our hopper right here. This can hold up to 500 envelopes in the hopper. This particular feeder can do everything from coin envelopes to remittance to a 6, 7, 8, number 10s, and on up to 9 by 12s, and everything in between. So you get up to 12.5 inches wide on down to 3 inches, and then up to 14 inches long on down to 3.5 inches long. Again, a variety of different sizes for your envelopes. You've also got registration from end to end. So your hopper right here, this actually telescopes back and forth to make sure that your envelopes are staying square. As they transfer down, you can see that there's a guide rail right here, and then there's another guide rail here that those envelopes will follow along to making sure that everything is square. And then finally, they'll hit two rollers, right here, to help transition from table to conveyor to make sure that everything stays square. The last thing, and you really can't see it because it's concealed by the build, but there are fingers that actually will start here, and then they actually run under the printer the whole length of the conveyor to make sure that your envelopes do not skew. This system does run 18 inches per second, so that's 10,000 number 10 envelopes per hour. And obviously that number is going to change depending on whether or not you're doing a number 10 or say a 9 by 12. But those are the speeds and the performance that you can expect. So why don't we go ahead and zoom out a little bit, and then we'll look a little bit more here at the system itself. If you can see, there's actually a guard or a protective barrier here, and then there's also one right here as well. So that's actually for UL certification. So if you are a government agency or anyone that's in need of a UL certification, this system does come UL certified to meet those satisfaction or those requirements rather. Looking here in the middle, you've got our conveyor. As I said, you've got a variable speed for your feeder, for your conveyor here, and for your delivery, which is over here, as well as manual and auto. Whenever you're printing, you're going to kick it in auto. Whenever you're setting it up for the first time or changing between jobs, which again you'll see a little bit later, you'll flip it into manual. The envelopes that I mentioned earlier, I didn't mention. This can handle up to 1/8 inches thick. So that's what you would expect. Whether it's a regular envelope like this or something like a 9 by 12 or something that's a little bit thicker that you can run through as well. So here in the middle, you've got our HP FI 1000 print head. It's a single pass high-speed inkjet print head. You got CMYK right in the front. It is cartridge-based, loads right there. They use Pigmented Aqueous ink. So it is a quick dry. This system does not use heat, it does not use UV, but instead, because of that pigmented ink, it is a quick dry. So when you pull it off the end here and rub your finger over, it should not smudge. So the print area that you have to work with this particular unit, it's far exceeds any envelope that you would have, but just so that you know, it does do 11.7 inches wide. on up to 36 inches long of impression or print area that you can do. With that 11.7 inches, there's actually a bleed channel that's under here. So if you can see here, this is an example of our bleed channel. And let me just kind of walk this up a little bit closer. This bleed channel actually spans the conveyor right here. And that print head comes down right above that bleed channel. Any excess ink is going to spray off into the bleed channel to get you a full bleed, like this envelope here that we printed earlier. To clean it, all you would have to do is just slide this back, pop this out of place, walk it over to the sink, rinse it out, drop it back in. Super simple and really convenient. But that's going to allow you to get full bleed prints. In cases when maybe you don't want to do a full bleed, or maybe you're printing on a smaller envelope, you can actually put this into non-bleed print mode. So you would just take this and slide it back this direction, and then it's no longer printing over the bleed channel, and you can print on whatever your envelope is. And then when you're ready, you would just simply move it back into place. So that is our print head conveyor. While we are here, if we're talking consumables or anything else, you're really just basically looking at ink for your cartridges and a service sled as well. And so, excuse me, I'm going to get down here and grab this. So this is the service sled. And I think you'll be able to see this on camera, but there's a rubber gasket that runs all the way around here. So this actually, if you pull a thumb screw here and back here and pull a panel off, this entire sled just slides right into place right below our print head. This will actually pull up and seal the head and all those print nozzles, so that way you're not having to worry about anything drying out or anything. And speaking of, not only is there that feature to keep you from drying out, but we also have maintenance modes. So we do recommend that this particular unit does stay plugged in and on at all times. It will do maintenance cycles on its own, and maybe you would say run it once a week just to make sure that everything's running smooth. But it will on its own do a maintenance cycle and make sure that the head's wiped down, the nozzles are clean, and that you got good prints each and every time. So I think that's really it in a nutshell. Let's go ahead and just kind of take a look at the software actually. Okay, so this is our interface right here. And like I said, we're going to be running number 10s. So let me go ahead and get our artwork pulled up here. So this is the primary interface here. So on the far left, I like to consider this our canvas. This is the print area that you're working with. You can see down here the 4.38 by 9.75 inches. That measurement is actually reading the physical dimensions of the PDF that you're pulling in. So whatever size PDF you're pulling in, that's going to read right there. And that also coincides with this media size over here called original. Again, it's mirroring what your physical print's going to be. There are other ones that are available to you, and you can even create your own if you happen to have a uniquely sized envelope that you would print regularly. And then you can see if I change this, the canvas size changes, so I can go and I can move this around within this space however I want to make sure that it's printing in the right areas. So let me go ahead and change this back. Okay, so the other things that we have here, like I said, you can move things up, down, left, and right within this space to get it exactly where you would like it. You can also rotate your artwork, so if you're doing a short edge leading edge or a long edge leading edge for your print, you can do that there. Moving down, this system is capable of variable print, or variable data rather. So this will print variable or multi-page PDFs. So that's why you've got print all, or you have range right here. So you could drop in, a 1,000-page document and tell it to do 1 through 500, or 501 through 750, whatever it might be, depending on what it is that you need to print. Then you've got your quantity here, and then the page range, as I said. Then you've got your quality. So we've got production and high res available in the system today. The production, you're going to get 12 by 600, and the high res, you're going to get 12 by 1200 resolution. Now that coincides here with your paper profiles that are over here. So 300 is going to be your production, and 600 is going to be your high resolution. And then after that, for instances where maybe you get artwork that does not have a bleed, but you do need a bleed, and you want to squeeze a little bit more so that you can achieve that bleed, you can actually scale that here to bump it up and say 103 if you would like, or scale it down. Maybe you've got artwork that works for multiple envelopes. You could do that here too. Finally, we've kind of talked about the media already. We've already talked about the paper profiles here, but then you got your density sliders here. So this top one's going to adjust all your ink density as a whole, all 4 colors. So if you happen to notice that your substrate, maybe it's running a little dark, or maybe the ink is slightly pooling because the substrate isn't as absorbent, you can actually adjust your density here. Or if you happen to notice it looks like my artwork's running a little cool, okay, well, I'm going to back the cyan off a little bit and adjust that here. But you have independent controls for any of these colors. And then finally, you've got 100% black that you can preserve it. It's just going to print a spot black rather than a rich or a processed black. So with that, why don't we go ahead and zoom out a little bit again. So I'm just going to come up here and make sure that we've got everything ready to go. One thing I didn't mention, there is static and there is normal mode on this system as well too. So a normal mode, it's going to rip the image. Like let's say you print this envelope 50 times. It's going to rip the image 50 times each time that it prints. If you put it on static mode, it will actually just rip the image once and then print it 50 times, which obviously helps with throughput and bottlenecking or what have you. You can queue up a lot more when you're only ripping the image once rather than 50 times. All right, so let me get this pulled up. Let me check on the static or the, okay, and we are in static, great. And let's just do 50. And I'm going to press print and step back and just kind of let this run. It will take a moment, as I said. There is that maintenance cycle, so it is kind of doing a quick clean to make sure everything's running well. And here we go. All right, so let me get one of these off here. You can kind of see. That's what you can expect. The color. Looks like we've reached the end of our print here. So just like that, 50, real quick. So let me go ahead and take these off. And looks like we did maybe have one. I mean, that's what you get when you have a demo like this. One that was a little off, but you can see here with the rest. Let me fan these out. Yeah, okay. Yeah, we have ran these envelopes, so maybe there was one nested inside the other, so I apologize about that. But then you can see here too, if I can get these, because I do want to show you the registration as well. How consistent you get from piece to piece on those. So that is our print in a nutshell. Let's go ahead and pivot really quick. Let's get a 9x12 set up so you can kind of see how one of those is loaded. All right, so the first thing that I'm going to do is turn off my feeder so that it's not feeding anymore, and I'm going to kick this into manual mode and flush out the rest of these envelopes. Okay, so that's that. I will take these and set these aside and empty out our hopper as well. Now there's a couple more here in the feeder, so I'm going to go ahead and then run the feeder and flush those out too. So I'm going to kick this back into manual, turn my feeder on, run those out. All right, grab those off the end and kick that back into auto. All right, now let's get our 9x12s so that we can get those loaded. And let's go ahead and take a little bit closer look here at our feeder so you can see a little bit more of what I'm going to be doing here. So I'm going to be running these as a long edge as the leading edge. So the first thing I'm going to do is just kind of take it back here and run this back and get this into position and squeeze on either side and then back it off just a little bit so that it falls. And then I'm going to take a knob that's under this wedge right here and move this all the way back here. You can kind of see that into position. So that way it gets these just a little bit elevated so they're angled to feed properly. All right, so there's that. And I am loading these as the as the flap as the leading edge. So this is how they're going in. And I'm going to take these and just kind of fan them a little bit and put these into position. All right, let me go grab just a few more so that way we got the hopper nice and loaded up. Okay, and one thing I like to check. Okay, I'm glad I noticed these looked weird. So these are in the box, staggered in the box. So I think, yes. All right, let's flip these around so that they're all the same orientation. It really won't do anything if you happen to load them different orientation as they print. Obviously, they're not going to be oriented with the print in the right way. But it's not going to be any catastrophic jamming or anything like that if you would happen to accidentally load those some backwards. All right, so that should be enough at least just to get us started. The next thing that we're going to do is move these guides here. So I'm going to just take this and move it back so that it's flush with this rail, right about there. And then take this one and do the same. Move it back. So right about there. And then I'm going to come over here, and you'll have to forgive me. Actually, let's zoom out a little bit so we can see better. I'm going to have to turn my back for just a second, but I'm going to kick this into manual, and I'm going to be watching right here to see where my envelopes fall between these guide rails to make sure that they're good. So I'm going to kick this into manual. Oh. All right, and then turn off my feeder, and then I'm just going to kind of take a look here and make sure that these guides are really right up against the envelope. And I could take this one and go just a little bit more there with it. And this one can go a little more like that. Okay. Actually, I'm going to back there we go. Okay, so that looks good. I'm just going to run a couple just to make sure that we're getting good feeding. So I'm going to kick this back into manual and turn my feeder back on. And because these are in a larger envelope, I am going to slow my feeder down a little bit to put a little bit more space in between. You basically want about half the width of the envelope in between these envelopes as they're printing. Okay, so that looks good. So I'm going to go ahead and take these off, turn that off, and then just load these right back in here. And that's really it for the changeover. So why don't we go ahead and I'm going to pull up the next bit of artwork here. We have our university envelope. I'm going to go ahead let's just do another, just put in 40 here. And yeah. Actually, I'll print one just so that way we can see what it looks like since I did the transition, and then I'll print several. So let's just start with one. Oh, and I'll turn my feeder back on so that way it kicks on automatically. And once that's fed through, we'll take a look, make sure it's positioned where we want it, and then we'll go ahead and print the run. All right, so there's one. Okay, I'm happy with how that's laid out. You can kind of see here. So let's go ahead and I'll just run 20 of them. You guys can kind of see them run, and that really should be it for our demo. Oh, I turned my feeder off. Let me turn it back on. Sorry about that. Okay, so you can see these are shingling up nicely over here. Let's take one of these. And again, here's your print. Doesn't smudge, beautiful colors. And we're still going strong over here too. So that is our 1170 EnveJet envelope printer. We've reached the end of our run. If you have any questions, feel free to check us out at postmark-usa.com. Thanks for watching.